I really enjoy chasing turkeys and hogs, and the earliest turkey season I'm aware of is in Florida's southern zone. So we packed up the gear and headed to South Florida.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops, also by Reconics, Trophy Rock, Eagle Seed, Nikon, Winchester, Lacrosse Footwear, Blood Sport Arrows, Flatwood Native, Morel Targets, Caldwell Shooting Supplies, Hooks Custom Calls, Montana Decoy, Summit Tree Stands, Drake Non-Typical Clothing, House Lubricator, RTP Outdoors, Yamaha, Fourth Arrow, Scent Crusher, iScope, Mossy Oak Properties of the Heartland, Hunter's Blend Coffee, Code Blue, Decode, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
The property manager gave us a tour of where we'd be hunting. It was beautiful, and we saw 2 longbeards and several hens. So you know we were excited for opening day. The habitat where we were hunting is primarily pasture, live oaks, and a few tall pines. Turkeys prefer roosting in the taller pines. And the pasture we selected to listen in that opening morning had pines on both sides. Opening morning of turkey season in South Florida, our strategy is going to be, until we really get the temperament of these turkeys, we're going to start with probably 2 hens. And doing a little scouting yesterday, we saw some hens and they weren't like with gobblers. So we think that a couple of hens might bring the gobblers on in. We do think we're so early in the season. And then as we get the temperament of the turkeys throughout the day, we may switch and use that Jake in a different setup, seeing how they respond. Surprised we haven't heard one yet. Is that mature bird or Jake? I can't tell. It sounded like there were 3 or more toms roosted in some distant pines. So we quickly moved that way, found a smaller pasture that had a dry flag pond right in the middle, and set up. Flag ponds are small, semi-permanent wetlands that usually have native vegetation growing in them with large leaves that look like flags. Dry flag ponds are great bugging areas. Think about it, if a flag pond's dry, the rest of the area is really dry, so there's probably more insects in the dry flag pond. Yeah, I see him, he's pitching out, here he comes. Come on, baby. We hadn't been set up long when the first turkey pitched off the roost and landed right in the middle of the flag pond. The toms were fired up on the roost and vocal once they hit the ground. I made a few calls and saw a tom about 70 yards away.
Oh yeah, bring it on, big boy. Oh, I see him struck. It's a full fan. It's a full fan. Come on, big boy. Come to daddy. There you are. Moving to the left. If he gets about to that tree, I'll take him.
Right as the tom appeared, I heard a commotion off to our right. It was a hog. As soon as the hog stepped out, he locked on my Miss Perfect decoys. Clay and I chuckled as we had a similar encounter last year.
I got him dead to rights right there, buddy. You are a pork sausage.
I'd probably been a little bit too focused on the hog because when I looked around, I noticed the tom had drifted off a bit. The toms were now out of the flag pond and putting on a show. Unfortunately, the toms hung up about 70 yards out. The toms strutted and gobbled, but really didn't seem very interested in the live hens or our decoys. The temperatures during the winter had been much colder than the previous year in South Florida. In fact, the morning we were hunting, the temperatures were in the 40s. That's atypical for that part of South Florida. You may recall that the previous year, the same weekend, we were hunting about 30 or 40 miles away. We were slapping mosquitoes and the toms were with hens. We could barely get the toms to bust off the hens. Totally different behavior this year.
I almost wonder, they're so responsive to the gobblers. I wonder if we shouldn't put our Jake out. Great start to our turkey season. He wouldn't quite close the gap. He's probably in range, but I didn't want to take the shot. Had a hog come out, kind of boogered us a little bit. We're gonna cut around the corner and get back on him.
This setup didn't result in me punching a tag, but the information I gained served me well throughout the rest of this hunt.
I didn't see any hens, did you? Oh yeah, there's 2 hens right here. Okay. Yeah, 2 hens are all in here. Did you see that hog? Yeah. He was right here. He came right out here. Let's just cut around that way. It'd be quieter for us to go that way through here.
Once the turkeys drifted off, we picked up our gear and decided to continue exploring the property. We were cutting through some palmettos and live oaks when we noticed some toms out in the pasture. They were in the sun and appeared to be warming up. We got set up without spooking the toms and made a few calls, but it appeared the toms had other plans. They seemed to be drifting off, but all at once their heads got red and they charged toward the side of the pasture.
What are they doing? Oh, there's a whole bunch running to the, there's a bunch running to the right, yeah.
We noticed another group of toms coming out of timber where the original group was headed.
You better call, please.
The original 2 toms were outnumbered, abandoned their charge, and headed the other direction.
Mouse are coming this way. How far is it to the fence, you think, between us and them?
We called to the new group of toms, the 3 toms, and it wasn't long until they were headed our way.
Safety's off. No, he's close in the distance, coming straight out in the gap. 3 of them. Hopefully they'll come through this gap. Here comes the second one. I can kill him at that split tree. They're gonna go by us. Yeah, they've heard us.
During their approach, the birds stayed out of range, got behind some palmettos, ended up crossing about 25 yards behind us. Having been in similar situations before, I knew it was much better to set tight rather than try to switch around and take a risky shot.
Yeah, I'm not gonna move. I'm not gonna move. Yeah, let him go, don't call, let him go.
A better plan is to let the toms drift off, don't alert them, and then you can reposition and call them again.
Well, that was close. We had 3 toms. What we're seeing is they're probably more interested in toms and hens right now. They just went by us, just a hair out of range. We're gonna let them go, reposition, probably put the Jake decoy out.
Now we had 2 encounters with South Florida turkeys and had a pretty good read on their behavior. It became obvious I need to put the hen decoys back in my vest and pull out the Jake Perfect. We quietly worked back up the fence row and spotted what we think are the 3 toms feeding around under some live oaks. This is why I love the Montana collapsible decoys. You can carry a flock in your vest and change based on your read of the current turkey behavior. They were working away from us, and I don't like being behind turkeys, but we felt if we could slide out the Jake Perfect decoy and do some calling, we could turn them around. Keelan was able to belly crawl out and put up the decoy, get back in. We started calling and didn't take those toms long to notice. The toms closed the distance, but they stayed pretty far off to the side. It was early during the hunt, and I was convinced I'd have a better opportunity. So even though I ended up closing the gap and getting fairly close to the decoy, I passed the shot, waiting for a better setup. Those toms drifted off and we were still deciding our next move. We spotted more toms out under the live oaks.
Yep, telephone pole 60 yards. Safety's off. There's 3 birds, boys. 2 of them are pretty far to the left over here. Behind the telephone pole.
Grant, you got 2 coming on your right pretty quick too. These 2 on your right are bigger birds, Grant.
How far right?
Past this tree in front of you.
Yeah, I see.
They're at 70 yards.
I see.
The toms would drift in and out of view. We later discovered there was a low sandy spot out there, and they were probably going there to get some grit.
I see 3. Where's the other 2? I see them. I'm on them. The 2 out here?
Grant, to the right.
Yeah. I see him.
Behind the decoy.
I see him. I'm on him. I'm on him. I'm on him.
4 jakes were coming in on string on this side, but the toms were once again trying to pass out front.
If they get much farther right, I'm gonna take them. I'm on the back one. Stop him.
Kill him.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. we earned that bird.
How many times did we circle this little?
My goodness. Patience paid off, made a clean kill, but goodness, boys, we've been there, by us here, then out front at about 50, I think. I knew he was dead because I was on top of his head. I mean, he wasn't getting out there, but goodness gracious. They came several hundred yards to that set of calling. They were looking at that decoy, but they were wanting to cruise on through here.
And I said, well, I don't want to get too far over here to my right. And of course, we've patterned this gun. We know how, but let's just see, because that looks like, goodness, that's a ways out there. Any guesses before I pull the trigger here?
40.
38 yards. 38 yards. It dumped him too, boy. He didn't do much flopping.
No.
It dumped him. That was fun, boys.
That was a good one.
And you know a great thing about Florida? We can do this all again. We can get us a sandwich, put a little sunscreen on for me, and do this again. Clay's thinking to the right, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, those other birds come back to the right. It's like bigger birds to the right. And I'm like, man, I want to see them. I was trying to crane over here, and as I was turning over, I saw these right here. Oh, that right.
Did he gobble right here up?
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
Close?
he gobbled right before I shot. His old neck come out and he gobbled, and he started coming back in. I said, well, now's a good time. Boom, had the old neck stretched out. Well, let's go see what he looks like. Man, you know, this southern hunting is fun. These palmettos aren't near as comfortable as an oak tree back in the Ozarks.
No, you're not.
Got these daggers in your back. Holy mackerel. All right, we are on safety. This is 37 short yards here. Nice thick paintbrush. Probably a 2-year-old bird, but it's kind of, look at this, it's kind of growing on the side. Look at this, it's kind of growing out the side. And this one is more normal. They have such beautiful colors. These Osceolas are just starting to, look at this folks, just starting, hasn't worn off much. They're just, even though it's about the same day literally as last year and we tagged the tom here with Keelan, they were worn off more. They're just starting to strut. It seems like it was a much colder winter here. The orange blooms the orange trees have much more blooms, and it was colder, more nights of cooling for the fruit growers down here. And it seems to have delayed the turkey breeding, because last year they were with hens and they would not respond to our Jake decoy at all. They'd flare off of it. And now they are coming to the Jake, so we're still sorting out dominance. They're not with hens. We need to adjust our hunting strategy. And here's the telltale sign, they're just haven't been strutting as much, not worn off as much as the bird last year. Nevertheless, bird down. We're gonna put this bad boy in the truck and go see if we can't come up on another tom out here. Now that we know kind of chronology of the breeding, the timing of the breeding here, and the strategy, I think we'll have a good hunt the rest of the day. We took some time to talk about the hunt and take some pictures, and I was thankful that we patterned the Winchester before we left. I knew the performance of my gun because I've used the same gun and ammo combination for a couple of years now, but I wanted to make sure it was still on because I hunt turkeys in some pretty rough country, to make sure I hadn't bumped the scope or knocked it off somehow. When we patterned the gun, I took one shot at 40 yards and it was a wicked pattern. Whoa! I don't need to walk down there, boys. That turkey is in the fryer. My goodness. Another thing I really like about this load is how even the distribution is. I mean, just look at that. In that 10-inch circle, look how even it is. It's not all shifted to one side or the other. It's pretty well balanced all the way through. And that's at 40 yards. As it worked out, the tom I tagged in Florida was 38 yards. And you'll notice there was almost no floppage and instant droppage. I just gotta tell you, I've been using Winchester's Longbeard XR shells for a number of years now, and for the price point, I don't think there's a better turkey load on the planet. In Florida, hunters are allowed 2 turkeys, so after we'd finished celebrating and enjoying the hunt, we got everything picked up and took off to try to find another tom. We took some time exploring and getting to know the layout habitat a bit better when we spotted 3 hens and a big tom out in the pasture. We felt we needed to do something to get the tom to close the gap, so when they went in a little depression and we couldn't see them and they couldn't see us, Clay skittered on out there and stuck up the Jake Perfect. We called a few times and Tom would certainly look our way, but he seemed content to be feeding and moving around and simply drifted off to the edge. While we were waiting to see if the Tom would return back into pasture, Keelan spotted a large sounder of hogs all the way on the other side. Hogs can do a lot of damage to pasture and native habitat. We knew there were hogs in the area, and Keelan had been carrying my bow along just in case we saw some hogs while turkey hunting. I think the excitement kind of overtook me, took off the turkey vest, leaned my shotgun against a tree, grabbed a bow, and took off. We used trees to gain the first couple hundred yards pretty rapidly.
77 to the closest, 77.
Finally, I made the decision we'd leave the cover of that tree and try to cut across the pasture to the shady side. This move is possible because hogs have relatively poor vision, so the three of us stayed in one line from the hog's point of view and scooted across to the timber on the other side.
Quartering away from us.
She's gonna go down. She's down. Porker. Drilled that baby. Did you see that? I mean, right there. I mean, right there. I'm talking, get down. Come out the shoulder. How's that for power, boys? That's a pretty good sized toter right there. Like, we're driving the truck back here. We're not dragging that rascal. That, Clay, that went all the way in and out the shoulder on the off side. And that's the dead meat, and I'm only shooting 55 pounds, folks. It's turkey season, I dial it down a little bit, setting the blind and whatnot. Oh, thank you. Oh yeah, I can see the blood ring is soaked from here. That did some damage. Man, look at the blood on there. I mean, that baby, there ain't no doubt that baby went through the pumper. Man. I love watching beautiful arrow flight. It's when you let go, you know you rip the net like you're shooting a basket. And this one went in right here, out the off shoulder. She went maybe 30, 40, 50 yards, including the circle. She was down. This is the first critter I tagged with my new bow. It's a Prime Logic and a shorter design than the bows I've been shooting. It's easy to shoot, and I found the shorter bow was a real asset when weaving in and out of cover and taking a shot in a tight location. This is a perfect eating size hog. They want to get rid of the hogs on this ranch and probably every ranch. And hunting won't control hogs. It's great sport and great food. You have to trap to control hogs, but this is one less hog that will be making piglets and one less that's rooting in the pasture. Awesome day in South Florida. Tagged the tom this morning and a hog this afternoon. In Florida, of course, you can hunt hogs on private land with the landowner permission. So we brought the bow and the shotgun. Keelan was nice enough to carry my bow along. We were sitting on the far side of the pasture. Actually saw a tom and 3 hens. They wouldn't close the gap. You're allowed 2 toms in Florida. And so once we let them pass and trying to figure out what to do, Keelan saw some hogs across the pasture. Golly. Flip the hog over, and here's the entry hole right behind the shoulder. You can tell. Here's the edge of the shoulder right here. It was quartering away just a little bit. Took out the off shoulder. Probably ran 40, 50 yards, little loop. She was down. Great day in South Florida. No floppage, rapid droppage. It doesn't get any better than that. We had a great hunt in South Florida. I've hunted with Keelan before, and he's an awesome hunting partner. You probably recognize Keelan because he's with the FLATWOOD Natives group, and he's done a lot of habitat work here at the Proving Grounds. It's easy to understand why the FLATWOOD Natives group does such great habitat work, because they're good hunters. And good hunters usually understand what type of habitat is necessary for critters to be very productive. Turkey season's just starting, and we'll probably be hunting or scouting almost every week. If you'd like to know our observations of what we're seeing out in the turkey woods, please subscribe to the Growing Deer channel. Whether you're chasing turkeys or doing a bit of habitat work, don't forget to slow down and enjoy creation and make time every day to be quiet and listen to what the Creator is saying to you. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.